Hello and welcome to another edition of the VenuePro podcast. Today we're delighted to be speaking to Pedro Abreu from the beautiful country of Costa Rica. Pedro is the Grupo Nación CEO and oversees the operation at Parque Viva, which is one of Costa Rica's premier multi-purpose venues. So Pedro, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, Gary. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks very much. Pedro, we'll get straight into it. You've had an interesting journey, interesting career, moving from the media sector into venue management as well. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your experiences and your career to date and how you got into the venue management and event space?
It's a long story. I decided to study communications. That was where it all began. And my first job was at AOL, long gone by now, but that's where I started my career. And after AOL, I came back home to Costa Rica, where I was in the newsroom, basically. And I spent around 5 years in the newsroom in diverse functions. And around 2010, I decided that I wanted to get into the media, into the business side of the media business, basically. I became, I think, I don't know if tired is the word, but I became tired of just the journalistic side, and I wanted to see more of the action of how to grow the business. And I did my master's degree at that time. And when I came back to Costa Rica, the company was making a new business unit that was dedicated to media or digital startups. So things like daily deal site like Groupon and dating site. And we had a place where you can make your own website and different types of startups. We had a ticketing business and we had a job site and all of that. And that either we invested in those companies or we started from scratch, or we bought a company. So we did different ways where we started to grow that digital businesses, and I led that digital business unit for around 5 years. And after those 5 years, they brought me back to the media side. So I was in charge of the newsroom again, but this time on the business side. And by 2018, I became CEO of the company. And the company, besides the digital business unit, had decided in 2015 to invest in a racetrack, the only racetrack in Costa Rica, and to build a venue, which is Parque Viva. When I became CEO, one of my responsibilities was to lead the venue, and I started to learn from there. So the road to getting to Parque Viva was maybe not a common one, but I've enjoyed my time with Parque Viva so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds great. Sounds like an interesting journey. And can you just provide a bit of an overview of Parque Viva, including the different spaces that are available, the type of events you host there?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, Parque Viva was built on the grounds of what used to be the only racetrack in Costa Rica. The racetrack has been around since the 70s. It has had all the major races that has happened in the country and in Central America. So we bought that racetrack. We shorted the track from 3 kilometers to 2.1 kilometers, and we converted the property into a multi-venue. So we had the amphitheater and the event center. The amphitheater is an 18,000 people amphitheater, and the event center or convention center is 9,000 square meters. So we had the parking for all the venues, and we used the racetrack as parking when we didn't have when we had an event, a concert or something in the event center. And today we host all different types of events, from using the racetrack for car races and motorcycle races and drifting and all types of motorsports, to those that are in the convention center, where we have conventions and expos and graduations and those types of things in the convention center. And finally, concerts in the amphitheater. That's primarily what we have in the amphitheater. We have done one WWE event. We have done other events in the amphitheater, but mostly concerts. And we have had major artists, well recognized all around the world, like Ed Sheeran and Katy Perry and Maroon 5, and Latin artists like Karol G and Maluma. So we have had now we've been 10 years now since we started, and it has evolved from what was once just a pure racetrack to a multi-venue.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, to go from kind of drag racing to a graduation ceremony is quite a mix of events you've got there.
Yes, definitely.
And how do you kind of split your time? So I'm understanding you're still quite heavily involved with the running of Grupo Nación, the CEO role. How do you split your time between that and kind of overseeing and managing Parque Viva?
Well, I think the key to splitting the time to manage between one and the other is having great people around you. Without it, that would be impossible. That is definitely the most important part, because I can't do it all by myself. So physically, I go 2 days a week to Parque Viva and 2 days to La Nación, which in Costa Rica, they are separate from each other. It's like 1.5 hour drive between the two. So they're not that close. So I go, like I said, 2 days a week to one and 2 days a week to the other. And I have all the meetings in those days. Then I have Friday, which Friday is my day that I can choose, depending on where am I needed, to either go to Parque Viva or to go to La Nación. So that is how I split my time. But definitely, yeah, operationally, I think the most important part is trusting the people that you have around you, building a great team, and trusting that the people that are in charge of the day-to-day operations are going to make the right decisions, and that basically makes my job very easy, and it lets me just think of the strategic aspects and more of the 10,000 feet decisions, and not on the day to day. So that's how I'm doing, and it has gone so good so far.
That's good. Good to hear. You kind of touched on it then, but what are the kind of main operational challenges you face? Because I guess running a racetrack to running conferences and events to running concerts, very, very different types of events, different types of audiences, different ages, different demographics. What are your kind of biggest challenges that you and the team face when kind of managing and planning these types of events?
Yes, so we at Parque Viva, we just rent out our spaces. So we are not actually doing the events ourselves. We're not producing the events ourselves. So we have different types of customers for each venue. For the amphitheater, it's mostly concert promoters, and some are local and some are international, and those are different clients. Then we have in the racetrack, we have the different federations, the motorcycle federation, the car racing federation. We have cycling events, and so those are those clients that mostly what we use the racetrack for is for practices. We have public events just around 5 to 10 a year in the racetrack, but practices we have every single week. People go in the morning to run and to cycle in the racetrack, and then in the afternoon, some days we have motorcycle practices, and the other day race car practices, go-karts, all types of things. And then in the event centers, we'll have the more diversified clients, and they're all types of clients, from corporate clients, banks, and things like that are doing something for their personnel, for their employees, or for their customers. Or we have clients that are doing a big expo of. We have had like expo housing, where people come and see materials for their house, for their home, and or getting a bank to lend them money for a mortgage or things like that. So we don't produce the events. We have a really diverse clientele, and obviously they have different needs, and those are the things that we have been learning. And the biggest obstacle, I would say, is or what I have seen when I have gone to other venues, or maybe not an obstacle because we are accustomed to that here, but when I see it in other places, I say I would like that to have. I would like the government to help us like they help other places. So what am I saying with this? I have gone to the Formula One event, and you see how they close the streets, and they help with the traffic, the government, and they help out with they build one-way roads so the traffic can flow, and they do investment in signage, and the roads are all pristine. And here we would love for the government to see us as someone who is bringing basically a lot of jobs to the local economy, and making the community having a lot of different options, and we would like the government to help us with that. So that, I think, that is the biggest hurdle or obstacle, or need, maybe not an obstacle, maybe the need that we have, that I've seen in other venues and around the world.
Well, let's hope the government's listening to this, and it might help. So, I mean, that kind of feeds into my next question. Really, is what's the kind of general scene like for live events, and what's the general market like for venues in Costa Rica? Is there a big appetite for kind of live events and the sort of thing you're offering?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to concerts, the overall market is definitely growing. We have seen in the past few years after the pandemic a growth in attendance and amount of events. We have maintained in Parque Viva around 70% of market share. We calculate our market share to all those events that are between 3,000 and 18,000 people. So we're doing good. We think there's an opportunity still to make the pie bigger, to have more events in the country. Our venue is definitely the most modern. I will venture to say not only in the country but in the region, and it's the only venue that is constructed specifically to support live events. The acoustic and is incredible, and there is no bad seat in the house. So definitely, Parque Viva is the premier venue for concerts. We compete mostly with stadiums. There are some international acts that only go to stadiums. And we have Estadio Nacional, which is the main soccer stadium in the center of San Jose, which mostly gets all the biggest acts. And besides that, the infrastructure is not that well developed. What type of events are we getting in the country? Uh, all it depends on the time of year. It depends on the audience. Reggaeton is very popular now all around the world, and those attract a mixed younger audience that comes with their parents to the events and things like that. And then we have an older audience that likes like Mexican music and rock and more old these 80s, 90s bands. But this year specifically, we've seen a growth in attendance, many events that have been sold out, and I'm optimistic the trend will continue.
Yeah, no, it sounds like there's a lot of potential there, which is exciting for you and for the other venues as well. So it's great. And in terms of kind of technology, again, you touched on the fact that Parque Viva is a modern venue. How have you used technology, and what kind of technology have either you adopted or have you kind of seen being adopted at venues and live events in Costa Rica? And is there kind of anything you'd like to be using more of, or more innovations you'd like to bring to Parque Viva if money was no object?
Yes. Uh, I think we are still in this aspect a few years behind what I've seen in the US and Europe, but we will be steadily growing. Uh, After the pandemic, paper tickets disappeared, which still 2020 it was the only way to get to a concert in Costa Rica. But after the pandemic, because of obvious reasons, they moved to paperless, and that has been a technology that has been well adopted. Uh, so I would say that in Parque Viva, as of now, the biggest technological advance that we have had is that our POS system is just a handheld, very easy to use, where in one place you can choose what you're going to buy, and you pay with a credit card in that same handheld, and you print out an invoice with that same handheld. You don't need to have. In the past, we had to have three different, the credit card machine and the a printer, and then the POS with the software for choosing what to buy. So that has been a major advancement, because now we can go everywhere around Parque Viva with just one handheld, and it's very easy. Makes the transactions seamless. I know there is another opportunity which I have seen a little bit about with cashless, having some type of wristband or something like that. But I think the next step would be like face recognition, where you can, put in an app your face, and you go to the bar, and there's a camera somewhere, and they know who you are, and you can buy with just your face. I don't know how far we are from that. I've seen that. I think in the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, they have already implemented some technology like this, and I think that's where we're going. If I would have the budget, that's something I would definitely like to do. Make the fan experience much better. We have also implemented security cameras and done things like that to try to ensure, the safety of our customers, better fan experience. But I think technology is evolving so fast that in the future everything will be much easier, seamless, without so many obstacles and roadblocks to get to buy things at a venue and have the most time to be sitting and watching the events that are happening.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it's almost expectation now of fans that, queuing is minimized and everything's very seamless and easy and it's all kind of one tap. And yeah, so I think you're right. I think all venues have got to kind of step up, and it will take time, but obviously the technology is getting cheaper and cheaper. So hopefully, it will reach you soon. And just kind of on a similar vein, and I think I kind of know the answer to some extent because probably a lot of it hinges on the infrastructure. But how do you see things evolving in Costa Rica in terms of venues and events? Do you think there's going to be more venues being built? That you said that the market's still growing, there's still potential there. So how do you kind of see it? What do you think is going to happen over the next few years?
I think definitely there's a growth in the market. I'm optimistic that will happen. I'm optimistic that more live events and more different types of events will come to our region, and I see the public going to those events, and I see a tendency in the younger audiences where they spend their money in experiences and not in physical things.
Yeah.
So I think that is all good news for our industry. Regarding the types of venues, I see definitely an investment in sports stadiums. Soccer is very popular here, or football. And I see an investment there in venues, in maybe in smaller venues as well, in venues that less than 3,000 people, that can have a good acoustics, that can have a speaker, that are flexible and can have a small concert and things like that can have Q&A, or I see an opportunity for something like that. And in our size, I think we still have a lot to grow, and in our case, we can make our venue much better. But I don't see more growth in that size of a venue. But we will see. We still have an opportunity of getting more of the events that are coming to the country to come to Parque Viva, even though we have 70% market share, and hopefully, and more importantly, bringing more events to the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, it's a question we ask to all our guests. But is there any advice or insights that you'd like to share with the next generation of venue operators coming through?
I would like to say maybe that people have to love the job. I think it's a very time-consuming job, very tiresome, difficult hours, very exciting at the same time. It gets your adrenaline pumping because it's a lot of work in a short amount of time and a lot of logistics. So it's not for everyone. But definitely, if you love the industry and you don't mind working on weekends, and you have the personality to be under stress in a short amount of time, I think it's a great industry to work in, and I have enjoyed it a lot since I got the opportunity. So I think the main insight, it's an industry that is not for everyone, but definitely if you enjoy it, you'll enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, sage advice indeed. But that's great. So thanks Pedro for jumping on this interview. Really good to see you, and really fascinating to hear about what's happening at Parque Viva, your background, and also what's happening in Costa Rica. It's really interesting to get a point of view from another destination, and it sounds like there's a lot of potential there. So I think Costa Rica is definitely somewhere to keep an eye on over the next few years.
Thank you very much, Gary. Thank you for inviting me, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.